Welcome to the Backfield Buzz podcast, a part of the High Podcast Network. Cody Wiles, Logan Glover, and Andrew Foster here, keeping you up to date all things NFL. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our American viewers. Americans definitely take Thanksgiving more like
Yeah.
intensely than us, eh?
Oh yeah. All we care about is Black Friday. And that's like a week long now, so who cares?
Yes. Well, speaking of Friday, we are recording this pretty immediately after the Chiefs Raiders game where Kansas City pulling it out somehow. I believe Frosty, what? This is the 13th straight one score game they've won, or 14th
It
now?
that makes it 14. It's an NFL record. 14 straight one possession games that they've won.
Well, that's an NFL record. Andy Reid clinches his 20th postseason berth as a head coach, setting an NFL record as well. The Chiefs improved to 11-1, best team in the NFL. Let's here's what we're gonna do today. We are gonna start with let's talk about the Chiefs Raiders game since it just happened. Then we'll recap the rest of the Thursday Thanksgiving games. And then we'll I got a couple questions for you guys. And then we'll have a little fun today. Why not? Hey? Bit of a wonky week just because of the whole schedule. It was tough for us to, make our start sits, but hey, we're making do with something different. So let's start with this Chiefs Raiders game where let's just go right to the final drive where Aiden O'Connell comes in, who had a really good day. 340 yards, two
Um,
touchdowns, starts driving the field, right? We got a completion to Amir Abdullah, a completion to Bowers, a big one. And then they get into field goal range, and then Jackson Powers Johnson snaps it. Looked like he got tapped from the guard, which is pretty typical you see on the road in loud environments. And it's ruled a fumble. The Chiefs recover with I believe it was like a couple seconds left, and then they run out the clock for the 1917 win. So, Glover, overall thoughts on this one here, the Chiefs sneak it out.
I mean, there's no words at this point. Like you couldn't have asked for you have no timeouts, no past the 2 minute warning. You could not have asked for a better 2 minute drill from your own 8 yard line. You got all the way into field goal range. You had clocked it with 15 seconds left. So you have time to run one play, either throw it away or a deep shot, or a quick out of bounds, get a little tighter. And how do you fumble the snap? How do you how do we get here, man? How and this is all after the Raiders could have just won it with a field goal earlier. Like, granted, it was 350 yarders, but Daniel Carlson missed three field goals that game, and they lost by 2 points. Chiefs are in the playoffs. Everyone expected them to be here. It's just the way they're doing it is it's insane.
The more games that they win playing bad football, the more confident I get that they're just going to walk to another Super Bowl because they're going to play better. It's going to happen eventually. They're going to put the pieces together. And if you can't beat them when they're not playing well, you sure are not going to beat them when they're playing well.
That's the problem I'm having. Is I think their best game of the year was week one, and it
Yeah.
wasn't really that good. And all these bad games are giving me false hope as an AFC fan, going, maybe we can beat them this year. They don't look all that unbeatable. They look like we have a shit. No, we don't. We're not going to, and we're going to lose again. And it just, mm.
Yeah, the only turnover in the game was the that last second fumble there, which is it's just really tough because they got contributions from everybody. Like Brock Bowers is really turned he's already turned into he's a star. Like
Oh
he's
yeah,
I'm not sure is there a better tight end right now? Like would you guys on your team right
Kittle,
now take another
I think Kittle.
like
Kittle.
going forward?
Just for 1 year,
Okay,
I'm taking
okay,
Kittle.
okay,
Going forward,
okay.
I'm not taking
Oh, go
anybody
if we're
else.
talking like a long term, no doubt it's Brock Bowers and a serious gap before
I
anyone.
mean, I would even say right now you could argue Bowers because
Yeah,
it's.
you
I
could.
mean, I'm sure Kittle would be putting up numbers like this if he was getting 14 targets, but 10 catches for 140 yards today for Bowers plus the long touchdown. He's been phenomenal. And where do I want to take this? I guess is there much more we can talk about this game? Like it's the Black Voodoo Magic, Chiefs 11-1, Raiders 2-10. There's a reason why. I mean, maybe Aiden O'Connell. What'd you guys think? Gardner Minshew breaks his collarbone last week. Aiden O'Connell now back to playing games here. 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The last play wasn't his fault, Frosty.
If Aiden O'Connell finishes the season playing like this, is there a chance the Raiders don't draft a quarterback? Is he giving himself at least one more year of let's see what he has? They were starting Gardner Minshew over him, which I didn't think was a good idea in the first place.
I
But
mean, here's where I stand. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but for anybody listening, we'll be doing a lot of draft stuff. Like I think we all want to be talking about mock drafts, dynasty stuff, fantasy stuff. We'll be getting into all of that. Um, I personally don't think any of these teams should be taking a quarterback. One of the questions I have for you guys is about, the Giants are the only team eliminated from playoff contention right now. So I mean, maybe Las Vegas gets eliminated
I
after
think
this.
might.
this game eliminated
Although
Vegas.
maybe not because the AFC actually the
No,
AFC
because the Broncos are
They're
like
5 games
seven.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they might be yeah,
it
you're
might
right.
it might eliminate them. Okay, so whatever. Let's include the Raiders now since we're talking about them. So both of these teams are eliminated. Looks like they're gonna have the top 2 picks. Maybe Jacksonville is fighting for that position as well. But I don't think any of these guys should be taking a quarterback. Like I think the quarterback class next year is better. Um, I don't think any of these guys are worth a top 5 pick. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I think they will go. I think they will be kind of forced to take. But Glover, where do you stand?
I think you the next 5 weeks are so key. The Raiders have some winnable games down the stretch. Tampa, then Atlanta. I don't expect them to win either of those games with those two teams fighting for playoff spots, but they can easily beat Jacksonville or New Orleans. Then you're sitting at 4, and I think they lose to the Chargers week 18 because the Chargers will be looking for playoff positioning. So you're looking at 4 and 13. That might not be top three. I think it really depends on how the board falls to them. If I don't think they wouldn't pass up on Shadur Sanders. I don't think they'd pass up on Cam Ward. So if both those guys somehow go, like if we're talking the Giants are going to take one and some team jumps into the ahead of them and grabs another quarterback, then they won't. I don't think they should take any of the other guys, but I don't the Raiders specifically will not pass on Shadur Sanders. For some reason, they are all in on Shadur Sanders.
I don't think any of these teams should.
I agree. Yeah,
A, for two reasons. One, I don't think any of the quarterbacks in this class are that good. I don't think if you take away positional value, I don't think any quarterback in this class is a top 10 player.
Yeah,
I don't think that's ridiculous. I don't think that's a hot take.
no.
The only reason they are is because they're quarterbacks.
I don't even know if they're top 20.
Like there's a lot of guys in this draft that are really, really, really good. Especially there's a ton of wideouts that are really good this year. I'd much rather see teams build a team and then go out and draft a quarterback. We saw it work for Houston last year. Look at what CJ Stroud walked into and what he did. If the Bears had any kind of competent coaching, they try to do the exact same thing with Caleb Williams, who has looked way better recently. Once they've fired their offensive coordinator and hired a new one, now they've fired Eberflus. I think he's just going to get better. I like teams going out and building around and then drafting a quarterback as the last piece rather than drafting a quarterback and trying to throw parts at him and
Yeah,
make the team work.
I completely agree. I think the issue is I don't think these teams should be taking quarterbacks, but they will. NFL GMs, if they have any sort of shot at taking a quarterback, they'll take it. And I don't understand this desperation to always be able to take a quarterback in a draft class. Like the last time we saw a class similar to this, I think it was definitely worse than this class, but it would have been 2022 or 2021, the Kenny Pickett draft class.
I think
That
it was
worked out.
21.
That was 2021, yeah. That worked out miserably for every team that took a quarterback. Kenny Pickett was terrible. Malik Willis was terrible. Matt Corral is already out of the
Oh,
league.
sorry, that was 2022, by the way.
2022.
Yeah.
Sam Howell, terrible. Desmond Ritter, terrible. These quarterbacks are not that good. Like, and this is as you said, this is a really good class. There's a
Well,
lot of great pieces that you can build your franchise around. Or
yeah.
you can do what the Bears did and take advantage of another team who really wants a quarterback for some reason and trade down to get even more assets.
It does honestly remind me of this 2022 class pulling it up because you had lots of dudes at the top who at the time were considered to be really good. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Stingley Jr., Sauce. There was 3 wide receivers taken in the top 11, or 4 in the top 12, 5 in the top 16,
This
7 in the top 18. My goodness. And yeah, only one quarterback taken in the first round, and that was Pickett at 20 to the Steelers. But I remember going into that draft, like nobody knew where these guys were going to go. I feel like mock drafts were all over the place. I feel like come like within a couple of days of the draft, it was that's when it started to be like, okay, well maybe like none of these guys are going top 10 or anything, but I don't know. We'll see.
I was just comparing the classes in quarterbacks, but really these are very similar classes just as a whole. The
Yeah.
top end, like I think this
Couple of top corners,
this receiver class is very comparable. Like they're on the same tier of like talent. Edge rusher, like D line and O line are both very strong in these classes.
couple of
Cornerback,
cup.
as you
Yeah.
said. This is like, and look at what some of these teams got a hold of because they didn't reach on a quarterback. Aiden Hutchinson's already a top 3 defensive end in the league. Derek Stingley's elite. Sauce Gardner's been elite. Some misses here and there for sure.
The Giants missed on both,
The
unfortunately.
Giants did
Even
miss
though
on both.
everybody at the time, I feel like everybody, I really
At,
liked Thibodeau. I loved Neil. Like
at the
that's probably
time,
one of my biggest misses of ever because
yeah,
I thought Neil was
at
yeah,
the
I thought Neil
time,
was
I
great.
thought they killed the draft. I thought they were making away like bandits with Thibodeau and Neal. But still, like Jordan Davis is a stud. Olave, Garrett Wilson, Kyle Hamilton. There's some this elite talent in this. You can compare this class. Will Johnson, um, or I'm pulling up my list here. Starks, Graham, McMillan, Hunter, Burden, Bond, Genty, Marion Hampton. There's a lot of great edge rushers you can go through here. Not a ton of great quarterbacks though.
All right, let's move on a little bit. You guys brought up the Bears and how Caleb Williams was looking a bit better. Hey, the Bears had a chance to win another game and unfortunately didn't. It was the first game on Thursday, dropping to the
Oh my.
Lions 23-20. Another Eberflus disaster class who is now there will be no more disaster classes, at least in Chicago for Eberflus. He's been relieved of his duties. I think I saw a clip like the after the game, he said he fully
This
expects to be
morning.
prepared. Oh, that was
That was
like
this morning. That
Yeah,
was
they
like
got
an
him on a
hour before he got fired.
they made him do a Zoom call press conference at 9 a.m. and then fired him afterwards.
So crazy.
yeah, it's tough. NFL's ruthless, man. Like the NFL is ruthless for just timing of fire. I saw on social media the Muse brothers
Yeah.
have
Yes.
both been cut on their birthdays. Like that's
Yep.
I feel like that happens quite often. You'll see like just people getting cut on their birthdays. It's kind of funny that both brothers ended up happening to them. Anyways, Lions squeak out another one, 23-20 over Chicago. They are now 11-1 as well. Um, big takeaways from this game, Frosty.
I don't the Lions the last 2 weeks have not looked that good. They really they didn't look that good against the Colts. I think the defense looked probably that was one of the best games of the season for the defense. The offense didn't look great. That's not a very good Colts defense. And they got held to what was it, 24 points? It was 24-6.
Yep.
And then this week against the Bears, they got stuffed in the second half. They couldn't get anything going in the second half. Jahmyr Gibbs looked not very good. Like it was not. I think they're the book is kind of out on them. I think teams are starting to commit to the run. They're going to put a lot of guys in the box, and if they pass, you have pressure on Jared Goff anyways.
I think there's two things I think with the Lions right now on the offense. Defensively, they're just too injured. They're losing. They're falling off like it's just insane, especially in that game. I mean, they lost like 3 D linemen. Malcolm Rodriguez was injured, and they already lost Alexander Zaloni, Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, they are losing defensive players like at a crazy rate. But offensively, I think they're too stubborn and they're trying too hard to be fancy. Like the
You
Panay
can't have Panay
Sewell,
Sewell going to
like
throw a ball.
sure, that's funny, but you're not gonna win a football game like that. Like, come on now. It's a cool
He
play, but let's get past we're past this stage with the Lions. We're past the fun, let's just screw around and see what happens stage. Let's get some wins, let's get some sustenance. Also, I think they need to lean away from the 50-50 split. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is so much more efficient than David Montgomery because
Yeah.
he was 8 yards per carry in that game against, and Montgomery and Gibbs had the same amount of yards. Monty had 12, I think it was 12 more carries. I think Montgomery is amazing to pair with Gibbs, but it needs to be more of a 60-40, 65-35 kind of thing where Monty comes in and bruises them still, but he should never be having more touches than Jahmyr Gibbs because he's not as talented. And they're too stubborn to go away from them. The drive on, drive off thing, it's not working because it makes them predictable. They pound the rock with Montgomery and they air it out with Gibbs. It's predictable.
Actually, I will say Monty's been surprisingly good in the pass game this year. It kind of
Yeah.
he's almost been better than Gibbs recently in the pass game.
They've used him more than expected in the past game for sure.
I will say, like the drive for drive thing. I would like to see them get on the field together. I would love
Yeah.
same drive. Like, I think starting the game with Montgomery is always the right call. I think starting drives with Montgomery is the right call, but like you just see like Gibbs just breaks off. Like he's breaking off one or two runs every game, and been saying this forever. It's like off camera to you guys. Like it's just I don't know understand why David Montgomery is getting so many touches away from this
Mhm.
young, just fantastic running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. Regardless, they're 11-1. So, but yeah, 3 of the last 4 weeks they have been very suspect, going even back to Houston. I mean, even the week before that, Green Bay tested them as well,
Mhm.
24-14 in week 9. So, and then Minnesota took them right to the wire as well. So they got a couple tougher games coming up here. Green Bay and Buffalo the next 2 weeks. So we'll see. I'm excited for that Buffalo Detroit game.
Should
I
be
think
good.
that's going to be a real good one. All right, anything more on this game? I mean, Chicago played well. We could touch on Caleb Williams if we'd like. Bad first half for Chicago, but surged in the second half. Anything you guys want to touch on?
I
I
mean,
want to say I saw this really funny stat. Penei Sewell has now taken more sacks than he's given up as an offensive lineman. He
Jesus.
hasn't given up a sack yet this year, and he's now been sacked once.
I I I'd like to point out our Matt Eberflus. We were on the when we were making our award predictions, we noticed he was the favorite to win off or coach of the year. And we all went, he might be the favorite to get fired first. Hey, here we are. Can't say
There
we
is a
didn't say it.
hey,
Well, we kind of
backfield
called.
backfield does. You guys were more on the Daniel Jones train than I was. But you guys were also pretty nailed. Yeah, you guys were right on the Daniel Jones about. I didn't think he'd get cut. I don't know
I
if you guys
didn't eat.
necessarily
I
thought
didn't
you
think
got.
he'd get
No,
cut.
I
Maybe
didn't
one
think
of you guys
that.
said it as a joke, but like,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
still have not seen how much money they're eating on that. But
I think
I,
it's like 24 million or something.
I really thought it would have happened
just one
after the
year,
season.
like maybe the
No,
contract was like
I think
per
it's
year.
this year and next year. Like the rest of this year plus next year.
See, I want to since we're talking about firings, what do you do with Joe Shane and Brian Daboll? Like in my eyes, you keep Daboll and you kick Shane to the curb.
Mhm.
Could do
I
that. I think they might just clean house.
I think Daboll I saw a post about this and it's kind of true. The only reason Daboll's job is in jeopardy is because he overperformed his first year. If he didn't make the playoffs with Daniel Jones year one, they wouldn't have signed Daniel Jones to that contract. They wouldn't have let Saquon Barkley walk because they would have just paid him instead. They would have still had Xavier McKinney. I think
I
this is
don't
Shane's fault.
I don't think that is though. I don't think any team, regardless of the discrepancy from quarterback to running back, is gonna pay their running back over their quarterback, regardless of who they are. I don't especially don't think the Giants would have. But I think if he didn't overperform that year, I think he's already gone.
And I do want to say, Glover, before you jump in, Joe Shane, I think has done a pretty good job up until this offseason.
He's
And I think he fumbled a lot of the negotiations. Still drafted well. They killed the draft again. They've drafted really well over these last couple of years, but it's just the free agency decisions have not been the best. But I feel like he's done a good job. So I'm struggling to find why they're 2-10. Like you could put it all on Daniel Jones, which is probably fair because you guys are higher on Dab. Glover specifically, I think is higher on Dabble
Mhm.
than me. I'm not sure, Frosty, how you feel about Dabble, but it might just be one of those things where just a clean slate. And I think Joe Shane might have shot himself in the foot, even though he could, one of their picks, Tyler Nubin. I mean, we're talking about the Giants. So Cowboys taking down New York 27-20 this week. I mean, Tyler Nubin led all tacklers or led all players in tackles. Like Tyrone Tracy has emerged. Malik Neighbors is obviously really good. Theo Johnson might miss the year, but he has produced a little bit. They really killed the draft again. And I mean, if you just look back to the last couple of years, Joe Shane's drafted really well. So I don't know, Glover, like where do the Giants go from here? Because one of the questions I had for you guys was also who do you take with them at number one? So I want to hear you guys' full Giants discourse here.
So I think Shane has done some good things. There's no doubt about that. He's made some really solid moves in his tenure, but none of them outweigh the just dud moves he's made recently. Like, yes, he's drafted pretty well, but his first draft class is not aging well at all. Thibodeau looks terrible this year. He's looked really bad. He's gotten penalties. He can't stay healthy either. Evan Neal is horrific right now. Wandale Robinson is solid. The rest of the guys, Josh Izudu, Cordell Flott, Daniel Bellinger, Dane Belton, Mike McMahon, none of these guys are difference makers. The next year, you took Deontay Banks, who's solid, but he's nothing to write home about. John Michael Schmitz, same sort of thing. Took Jalen Hyatt and haven't used him to do anything. Same thing with Eric Gray, and the other three are not doing anything. This draft class looks amazing right now. I will say that. Malik Neighbors, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, Tyler Nubin, really good class right now. But he also, as we said, let Saquon Barkley go for nothing. Let Xavier McKinney walk for nothing. Signed Daniel Jones to that monster contract when everyone and their mother knew the reason they were in the playoffs that year was because Saquon Barkley took them there. I'm okay if you let Saquon Barkley walk because you don't want to pay a running back, but I'm not okay with letting Saquon Barkley walk so you can pay Daniel Jones. That's what really hurts Giants fans. And I think that's why people are clowning the Giants more than the Titans for letting Derrick Henry walk or the Raiders for letting Josh Jacobs walk, is because they didn't let them walk to pay some bum. They let them walk because simply it didn't make sense for their organization. They didn't spend the money elsewhere and burn it, basically.
I mean, Frost, do you want to any more comments on the Giants? Hey, let's go over to your Cowboys, taking down these Giants that we've just talked about for longer than probably anybody wants to listen to. But yeah, 27-20 Dallas. Honestly, largely thanks to the defense and Rico Dowdle. Dowdle, 22 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Defense played out of its mind, getting a touchdown there from your boy, Marvion Overshone. So take the floor.
Oh my, I don't know if there's a player that I could be more happy that I've planted my flag on before this season than DeMarvion Overshown. The way that he's looked recently, he looks unbelievable. He looks like a number one linebacker now, which is what I wanted him to be by the end of the season, and he's doing it even faster than I expected him to. The defense is so much different with Micah Parsons. And I know it's a given. It goes without saying when you have a top five defensive player, your defense is going to look way different. But it's insane just how much you have to commit to him. And if you don't, he wrecks the game.
Yeah.
He wrecks Evan Neal looked like a child. He at one point that game, Micah Parsons got past him so bad he looked like he was pass rushing Drew Lock. It
Yeah,
was
that's pretty funny.
crazy. Like the defense looks unbelievable, and unfortunately, they're giving me hope now. They're 5-7. They're only 2 games below 500, and they play the Bengals, Panthers, Bucks next. I'm not gonna say that there's a chance that they could like give themselves a playoff game because I don't even want them to make the playoffs. I want them to draft high enough to get Ashton Genty, but Rico Dowdle's shown flashes now, and that scares me because I think Jerry Jones might go, we don't even need him now. Now Rico's good enough. Rico's done enough now.
That I will say though, this is what happens when you stop giving half the carries to Ezekiel Elliott. Like Dowdle's
Oh,
been a
thank
good
God.
running back. Like he was a good running back, and we knew it. And Dowdle was supposed to be the one. I don't know why Zeke was getting carries, but the schedule, I think it's out of the cards. I think the Bengals offense has been terrorizing defenses all game. I don't think Cooper Rush is going to do enough to take advantage of the crappy Bengals defense to keep up with Joe Burrow. They can be the Panthers. No one's doubting that. The Bucks, it depends what Bucks team you get because they look really good some weeks. They look terrible others. I think the Eagles probably just wipe the floor again.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if the Commanders need the win, I, I I think they might grab it too. Like I don't the schedule is not great for them.
I
Going
like it though. Three of the five matchups are under 500, and the other two are division games.
yeah.
I think Dallas could easily
Realistically,
beat the commies there.
Yeah, they did before. They boxed up Jaden Daniels' offense for the first like everything but the last 5 minutes of that game, where they played man coverage all game, and then all of a sudden Zimmer decided to drop into a soft zone for 5 straight minutes and give up 20 points.
We'll get a good idea of what Commanders team you're gonna get by how Cliff Kingsbury calls the next 4 games. Because right now we're not sure if he can turn around. We're expecting the typical Cliff Kingsbury fall off here. If that continues, then yes, they can definitely beat the commies. But if if Cliff Kingsbury figures it out, if he gets back on track, then maybe not.
Okay, yeah, we'll do a little bit more of a preview here coming up. So save some of your hypothetical scenarios here, because especially Cincinnati, I want to talk about. Let's finish the Thanksgiving game, the least entertaining one. Green Bay Packers and Miami Dolphins. The Pack taking down Miami 30-17 at home. Expected, I would say.
Yeah.
Large part thanks to just because of the defense. I think the defense played really well. Even though Tua threw for 365 yards and 2 touchdowns. I thought they relatively were, I mean, solid. They only allowed Miami to put up 17 points. They clearly struggled. Defense and special teams for Green Bay, I think, got it done. Any big takeaways for you guys in this one?
The Dolphins will never win a Super Bowl. That's
Okay. Well, I said a big takeaway. There you go.
like you can't play in the
The
cold.
biggest takeaway you could probably
You can't
get.
play in the cold. Good luck getting through the AFC, man. Like I don't know what you want to do.
Well, they
You're
got
gonna
the best tight end in the
replace him.
league. So, and I said who's better than Bowers? Johnny Smith.
Jonas,
Oh, he's
they
killing me in fantasy, man.
like the Dolphins. So I think the Dolphins can pass on anybody.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever been in question. Their O line, I don't think, is good enough to run against the best of the best in the AFC, especially you go against any of the division winners. You go against Houston, Baltimore, Buffalo, or KC. I don't know if they're running for 50 total yards all game. Like they can't. And in a playoff game, especially in the cold, you need to be able to run the ball because that's what's good. That's what's going to wear teams down. It hurts to tackle people down when somebody's running downhill at you. It hurts in the cold. They can't do that.
This is like I know the narrative is pushed on Tua can't play in the cold, and that's fair. Tua's had some rough moments in cold weather games. I think Mike McDaniel's a bigger issue in the cold. And the team as a whole, they're so one-dimensional. They're just fast. And when you're playing in a snow game where you can't get traction, or when the ball is hitting your hands and it feels like a block of ice, you're not as fast in the cold. A speed game is not going to work in the cold. You have to have some sort of power, some sort of consistency. Like you need to have a change of pace back or a big bodied receiver. You can't just rely on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in a cold weather game.
They do have a big. They don't use Alec Ingold. They have arguably probably the second best fullback.
Whoa,
Arguably the
whoa,
second best fullback.
whoa.
He's arguably. I'm putting Kyle Juszczyk as one.
Yeah,
That's
that is
pretty
Pat
clear.
Ricard by a
It's
mile.
either Pat Ricard or Alec Ingold.
All right.
And they had the ball on the 1 yard line and didn't give it to your fullback in a what is basically a snow game, just minus the snow. It was
Yeah.
like I don't know what it translates to from American
Yeah, I
degrees,
don't know
but
Fahrenheit.
it was
It's
cold as
cold.
hell. And you have this absolute bowling ball. You line him up and you give him the ball and let him steamroll through the offensive line. He needs 1 yard. And he didn't get a carry all game.
I like I think this is like it's just bigger than like I think the GM they need to build the team with less of just let's just draft the fastest player available. Jalen Wright is not changing this offense in any way, shape, or form. He's just Devon Achane light, Raheem Mostert light. Malik Washington is not doing anything for this offense. OBJ is not doing anything for this offense. You need to build different players. You can't just have 7 of the same guys and hope it works. And Mike McDaniel needs to find some variety. They are terrible in short yardage, and they took a whole half. The reason they lost that game is because they didn't score in the first half. They only dropped 3 points. They couldn't get the offense going in the first half because They didn't know what they were doing in the cold. McDaniel's now, I think it's 1-15 against teams with above 500 record. I think he's on the hot seat. He's a
He
great
has to be.
offensive mind, but I don't think he's a good head coach.
I I will say one of the things that McDaniel, I get it. Tyreek Hill isn't like the best like red zone guy, but there was a chance where they could have pulled within one score, I believe, and Tyreek Hill wasn't on the field from like the 4 or 5 yard
Mhm.
line for 3 straight plays. That's a bit inexcusable to me. Um, yeah, I mean it's weird. Defensively, they're top 10 in passing yards allowed and rushing yards allowed. Doesn't feel like that though. And then I think they're 11th worst at running the ball. So just some overarching numbers for Miami there. But I mean, based on what Glover said, I tend to agree. Like, I think this window of this iteration for the Super Bowl is
But yeah,
closed.
you have there's no unless you have the one seed, there's no way you avoid KC, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Denver,
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
Denver, literally every
Any
good
It's
AFC
just
team.
Houston. It's
like
just Houston.
there's no way any of those teams are going to finish above you in the standings, or teams like when New England gets going, the Jets get going, the Browns get going. If those teams are making the playoffs, they're going to be cold too. There's like four warm weather teams in the AFC. There's no way you avoid all the cold weather teams on the way to the Super Bowl. There's just
Bro,
no.
there's you got to play the cold no matter what conference you're in.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's like yeah, it's just the South teams where you're going to be playing in domes and warm stuff. So uh, I feel like yeah, I mean I think I would say the window was closed. Like I mean I don't know where they go from here if you clean house. Like I don't think Tua's good enough or durable enough to take you to a Super Bowl. I think Tyreek Hill's a little bit past his prime. Uh, we'll see what Jalen Waddle continues to look like. They got to fix the O line. They're a bit old on defense. And then you guys brought up the McDaniel problem. So there's a lot going on with the Finns right now.
I think they're just stuck in purgatory for the next 5 years. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah,
And
they're stuck in good, not great.
well,
Yeah.
and it's if like these AFC West teams now are starting to look if they're already ahead of schedule, kind of what we're thinking with Denver and LA. Miami might like you might as well just drop out of the race completely and restart it kind of thing and hope that when you're coming back up, these teams are starting to come down. And then it's just like you guys in Houston and probably Kansas City because they'll just be running the AFC for however long at the top. But I mean, anything else on these Thursday games, these Thursday teams before we go on? Anything on the Packers? Packers love like they continue to win games. Bit of
They're
a
a good team.
sleeper right now, I think. Like I think not a lot of people are talking about them, but I don't know. Like this is a potential team to like I dare I say go to the Super Bowl.
The Packers managing to keep their head above water, and I think they played at over a 500 level with Malik Willis at
Mhm.
quarterback.
I
Yep.
think they lost.
Gives the, that
They
gives them a
think
legit
they did.
shot that if they beat the Lions,
They have to get through the
why
lines,
can't
but
they win the division?
they've played the lines well already.
I'd say
Yeah,
And
they're pretty comfortably the third best team in the NFC right now. Pretty comfortably. Like Detroit, Philly, and then them.
you could argue they're better than Philly.
You
really,
could, but I wouldn't.
I think I'd be closer to arguing Philly over Detroit.
I think
I,
so too. I'm closer to Philly over Detroit than Green Bay over Philly.
But I also don't think the gap between Detroit to like even the Vikings or the Packers is that big.
I'm to wrap it up here. I think Detroit, Philly, and Green Bay are kind of in their own. Like I don't think that gap is anywhere near, but I think Minnesota's a bit
Yeah.
farther down. But we'll get into projecting and taking a look at the rest of this week here coming up. Okay, so we recapped some there was a couple fun games. Maybe not the results some people wanted if you're not from Kansas. Um, but let's preview the rest of the week here because there's a one game in particular, one team in particular that I mean, it's do or die time. They have enough talent to bring it back here. I want to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. This is kind of where I want to start. One of the bigger games of the week. Pittsburgh, Cincy, defense versus offense versus bad defense. Polar opposite teams, division rivals. Pittsburgh sitting pretty comfortably at 8-3. Cincy 4-7. You blink and you're like, wow, they're 3 games below 500. Glover, you're our AFC North guy. Uh, I mean, since he's got to win, and they're not out of it, do you think they can pull it off?
10, yes. Will they? No. I think there's a realistic world where Cincy wins out and wins their next 6 games and goes, that would be 10-7. I think that's a realistic shot for them. They play Pittsburgh, Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh. But I think Pittsburgh takes at least one. There's no way they sweep the Steelers. I think the Steelers just play the AFC North well. They play these quarterbacks super well. Their defense is really good. TJ Watt's probably going to wreak havoc. And I trust Russell Wilson to beat the Bengals defense more than I trust the Bengals offense to beat the Steelers defense. Like I think the Bengals offense will put up good numbers, but I just don't think they'll be good enough.
I will say, Frosty, a Pittsburgh second half of the year collapse isn't anything we haven't seen before to get back closer to 500. They're a little too good right now. Any comment on that?
I don't like.
So I'm setting you up. Come on.
I think the Steelers are good though. I think this is the best
Say
offense
that.
that the
Yeah.
Steelers have had.
Okay.
Not
That's
not like
wow.
not ever, but like
No.
recently,
Yeah.
like I like this offense. I think they do a lot of things well. I think they can, outside of last week, because it was a snow game, it's whatever. It's in Cleveland. Like that game is as 50-50 as you can get. A division game, snow game on the road. That's the most excusable loss. I don't love the fact that the offense disappears. I think their offense is really hit or miss. If they start the game good, they're going to have a good offense that game and they're going to put up points that game. If they don't start off good, if they start like a 3-and-out or a couple 3-and-outs to start the game, they're probably putting up 15 points and it's going to be on the defense to win every game for them.
You want to know something funny? The Bengals have they have a positive point differential and are 4-7. They're +1.
Jesus.
I mean, just because the amount of volume of points they put up. But I mean, okay. Anything else on these two teams? I just wanted to start there because feels like one of just for Cincy purposely, like they need to win, or else I think if they lose this one specifically, it might be cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they go to 4-8, I think they're done.
It's over. You're not getting in 9-8 in the AFC.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that the Steelers or the Bengals could go 6-0. The Steelers could go 0-6 in their next 6 games.
Yeah, I know.
Gauntlet. Their cupcake
Yes.
schedule gets a lot less cupcake from this point on.
Yep.
They get Cincy, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, KC, Cincy. And those Baltimore KC games are in the span of 4 days with the Phillies the week before.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to start here because it feels like both these teams they're literally polar opposites. One could be going down, one could be going up. One has a good offense and a bad defense. One has a bad offense and a good defense. So I just, hey, so you see the storylines? I'm like, hey, we're decent over here at the Backfield Buzz, okay?
If I had to project until they finish 10-7, they could finish 9-0. Like I think beat the Bengals one of the 2 games. They do beat the Browns at home, but I think the Eagles take them. I think the Ravens at home will. All things like everything football in my brain tells me that the Ravens should win that game at home, but who knows? And I think the Chiefs take it from them on Christmas. So
All
like
right,
I think
well,
they go 10-7.
yeah. Well, you brought up two teams that are going to be playing those Steelers, the Eagles and Ravens. They're playing this week. That's kind of the other big game I wanted to touch on. Glover, I'm going to let you stew there for a second. I want Frosty to give his opinion on it. He's seen the Eagles and what they can do. Uh, what do you think? Because these are two teams who might not be the favorites to come out of their conference right now, but are nipping at the heels of the teams that are right above them.
I don't think the Eagles are getting enough credit. They're a game behind the Lions. If they
Yep.
beat the Ravens, they're going to be 10-2, and they've been getting better and better and better all year long. And what's really interesting to me for this game is both of these teams stop the run defensively and feast as a running offense. I want to see what line is going to win. It's going to come down to whose lines are going to be better. Whoever dominates the trenches is probably going to win this game. And I think the Eagles win that relatively easily.
Yeah.
The Ravens, especially offensive line, that's going to be scary for Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry, but Saquon's also Saquon. Like it's going to come down to the lines, and I think the Eagles are going to be able to dominate in the trenches.
I am so goddamn scared. Like, I am so scared. Like, but that's what it's gonna be is these teams play each other's strengths well. Like, but the issue is the Ravens are coming into this game, and you talk about the trenches, they're not gonna have Kyle Van Noy, who's one of our leading sack getters, against one of the probably the best, maybe the second best O line in football right now. And our O-line's been getting better. Like our team as a whole, our issues have been getting better. Our defense looks a whole lot better these last 2 weeks, and our offensive line has looked a lot better since the start of the season. I still wouldn't put any money on Daniel Faalele being able to block Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter. So Tyler Linderbaum's gonna have his work cut out for him. Like he's gonna have to put some work in on that line. I think Ronnie Stanley can handle one edge, and I think the edge I think will be fine. The interior pressure is going to be brutal. However, if the edge is fine, I'd like to see Lamar use his legs. If the edge is fine and the pressure comes from the middle, if he can get outside, man, he has not been taking off this year. And granted, he's been able to step outside the pocket, sit for another minute or two, and find a deep ball target with like typically Rashad Bateman getting open down the field in like a backyard football kind of play. But typically he gets outside the pocket and there's space and he goes and it works well. But he hasn't been taking the space this year, and it's a little interesting to see. I really want to see him take the space against the Eagles. The other interesting matchups are Slay being hurt and Devontae Smith being hurt. If Devontae Smith plays, we might be cooked. And with Slay not playing, I like that, but Quinion Mitchell's been amazing. But with Smith, it's all on how Zach Orr plays AJ Brown. The amount of PIs Brandon Stevens will get called for if he's covering AJ Brown one-on-one is insane because he's gonna have to. And Stevens can't track the ball in the air. He can play tight with you, but AJ Brown is gonna draw those penalties all game long. Marlon Humphrey will play tight and is a lot better at getting away with it. So let Marlon Humphrey just shadow him, please, for the love of God. Or Nate Wiggins. But I'd rather have Nate Wiggins on someone else. But it's gonna be Zach Orr's gonna have a test. He's been a lot better recently. This is his biggest test.
I'm going to be really interested to see too. You said you wanted Lamar to take off. They played Jaden Daniels very, very well.
True.
He only had 191 pass yards, 7 carries for 18 yards. The guy I'm going to watch is Zach Bond. Zach Bond had 9 solo tackles, 15 total tackles against the Commanders in their game. If he's going to be able to stay in front of Lamar, it's going to be a tough day for the Ravens offense.
The other uh, under the radar miss is Charlie Kolar being out is going to hurt the run game a little bit. He's been a really good run blocker for us, so that'll be a little interesting to see as well.
All right, let's play a little game. Guess the favorite. I'm not sure if you guys have checked the odds. If you have, well, then you're going to be winning the game. All right, let's go back to the first game we just talked about. Pittsburgh Cincy. Who do you guys think is the favorite?
Pittsburgh's
It's
gotta be
got to be Pittsburgh.
Cincy favored, and if you had to guess the points, what would you say?
1.5.
Yeah, that'd be my 1.5.
Cincy minus 2.5 going in to the game. So you guys off on that one. And now Philly Baltimore. Guess the
Philly.
favorite.
Philly's favored.
I'd go Baltimore. Where is it? Is it in
It's in
Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
I'd go Baltimore then.
I still think Philly's favored.
And guess the points, both of you.
I 2.5.
They like Baltimore. I'd go 4.5 Baltimore.
Well, Frosty's closer. Baltimore is favored minus 3. So those are a couple interesting lines that I wanted to bring up because I thought I was gonna get you guys on both on them because when I saw them, I was like, whoa, that's a bit
I don't
interesting.
agree with that Baltimore line though.
No.
I think Philly should be favored.
Actually, I did just remember one thing though. Lamar Jackson's only lost one NFC game in his entire career. He's like
To who?
23 and
Do you
1.
know? Do you
I
know?
know, and I don't want to talk about it.
No,
It
tell me,
may or may
please.
not be the Daniel Jones led New York Giants.
Okay.
But like it's so crazy when you stack up the teams he's beaten in those NFC. Like the 2019 year, he played the Seahawks and Niners, who were both like undefeated at the time. He's played so many good NFC teams, and his one loss is the Daniel Jones led New York Giants. Like, come on.
All right. I also compiled a couple of questions for you guys to wrap up the episode, just because I think it's fun. This is we're having fun. Uh, Kind of brought it up a little bit when we're talking about the Giants. I'll bring it up again here. Giants projected to have the first overall pick, might not win another game. So let's assume they're gonna have the number one overall pick. Who would you guys take if the Giants had first overall? It's we were mentioning it. I mean, do you think they just lock in on a quarterback? Do you think they go out and get a weapon? Do you think they address the defense? Let's go to Glover. You're going first, buddy. Who would you take if you were, say, Joe Shane gets fired? We were talking about that. Logan Glover announced as New York Giants GM. Who are you taking first overall?
I'm trading back.
That's not the game.
Yeah, I'm playing the game of my own rules, man. I'm trading
Okay.
back.
All
Because
right. Well, then you better tell me the trade.
well, so here's my thought is I was looking at what they like looking at just what I would think they need and what she would be taking at first overall. I don't think I would take a quarterback. And the first overall guys, I would consider Will Johnson a candidate. I would consider Mason Graham a candidate, and I would consider Travis Hunter a candidate. I don't think they go receiver. I think they have bigger, more pressing needs than corner, but Will Johnson is not a bad shout. If they're sticking at one, I'm taking Will Johnson. And I think interior D line is amazing. You have Dexter Lawrence. I think they want a guy like Campbell, Kelvin Banks, an O lineman. I'd go O line. So I'd trade back and try to get an O lineman because there's a decent chunk of depth in this class you could grab at the in the top 10.
Do you have a team that you think would trade up then?
Saints.
And where would you trade down to? Okay, so Saints currently projected to have the 10th overall pick.
That's perfect. It's exactly where I want to be.
All right. Frosty. Joe Shane
I'm
gets
just,
fired. Frosty Andrew Foster gets hired.
I don't think there's any reason to not take Travis Hunter.
Hmm.
I still think they need a lot of corner help. Travis Hunter, to me, is a better corner than he is receiver. He's 6'3", I think. 6'3" as a corner, a
Yeah.
lot different than 6'3" as a receiver.
Yeah.
And if you want him to play both sides, there's your second guy beside Malik Neighbors, too. Then once you get your quarterback, eventually, if you wait till next year, your team's still horrific because you have Tommy Cutlets and Drew Lock as your quarterback next year. Then you get Arch Manning. Now
Yeah.
your offense is Tyrone Tracy, Arch Manning, Travis Hunter, Malik Neighbors.
That's the other like really key point. Why the hell are the Giants not tanking for Arch Manning? He's the son of your greatest quarterback ever. This is like this storyline is insane. And you're not even gonna try it? Come on.
Well, we'll see. I mean, nothing's set in stone, obviously. It's very early, but I mean, if Cody Wiles got hired, I wouldn't take a quarterback. I'm not sure if I would take Trav. Trav's a decent show just because I mean, wherever you think, I mean, they'd be a type of team where you could play him on both sides. Like they'd be one of the teams where you could legitimately
Yeah.
try him.
That's why I think if they get the first pick, I wouldn't be shocked because what are you losing by at least giving him a shot year one
Yeah.
to play on both sides? I don't think he's going to be able to play 100 snaps in the NFL a game like he is in college because it's just too physical. But if he plays 30 snaps on either side of the ball, I'd be happy with that.
I mean, the Richard Sherman comments got taken out of context when he was talking about Travis Hunter, but he was right. He Travis Hunter as a receiver, as you said, 6'3" as a receiver, that's pretty typical. There's a lot of guys like that. You blend in, as Richard Sherman said, to the rest of the league. But yeah, 6'3" corner, very hard to come by, especially one with ball hawking skills like his.
I got him at 6'1" here. I guess we won't know until we see
The measurements.
the combine measurements, but I mean, it almost exaggerates the point even more. Like a 6'1" wide receiver, a 6'1" corner is
It's
still
still,
like
yeah.
all right. So, all right. Well, speaking of Travis, we're still on the college grind here. college regular season is ending tomorrow, I believe. Um, Heisman, who would you guys give the Heisman? It's basically if you there's two names. If you guys don't say either one of these, then uh, I'm slapping you through the screen. But you got Travis Hunter on one side, you got Ashton Genty on the other. Where would you guys go?
You're
Whoever
not
what
you're I think it's pretty clear. I think it's Ashton Genty. I
Agreed.
would I would rather take I think it's more impressive. He gets like eight guys in the box every play, basically. He was, I think, 2,200 yards and 28 touchdowns in 12 games. He is, I think it's more impressive to be the unquestionable. It's not even a doubt whether he's the best running back in the nation or not. It's him. Period. End of story. Travis Hunter's not the best receiver and he's not the best corner. He's doing stuff that we've never seen before. Yes, it's insane. But I think Ashton Genty has a bigger impact on his team, and I think he's more valuable to his team than Travis Hunter is.
I don't think anyone's done it as well as Travis Hunter has, but people have played DB receiver before. Champ Bailey, Rod Woodson. I'm just scrolling through this list.
It's
But those are
it's
the
been
big
a
names.
long, long
It has
time.
been a long time. Those guys were early 2000s guys. It has not happened in the new this new era for sure. But those two guys were great. They both went to the league as corners, and they both were great corners in the league. Travis Hunter, like, I'm not gonna pull the cardio king like argument that everyone that's just going around, but it's Genty is just doing so much more, and he's on a 10-1 team. He's bringing his team to the college football playoff single-handedly. Travis Hunter's Colorado is barely ranked right now. They're not making
And
the college football playoff, all things considered. The odds of them making the college football playoff, maybe if they win the Big 12 championship game, I could see that.
but
But
they're gonna need
Ashton,
help.
yeah, Ashton, they're 11-1.
And Travis Hunter has a way better. Yes, they've had a more difficult schedule too. I will say they've had a more difficult schedule, but I still think it's more impressive what Genty's done.
Yeah, and Travis, sure, they've had a better schedule, but Genty didn't slow down against Oregon. He played very well against Oregon. That's their one loss, and he played well in that game. And to me, Genty has had a bad game all year. Hunter's had quiet games at receiver, and when we're talking about a debate that's this close, I think you have to take into consideration the fact that Travis Hunter has had games where he has not done anything.
to play to play devil's advocado, there's a reason why Travis Hunter has a bit more quieter games because of who he's playing. I will say, Genty is. Wait. Before you guys jump in, let me. You guys have been going back and forth. Let me get in here a little bit. I will say, Genty's beaten up on uh a lot of the numbers are definitely inflated. Like if he undeniably, right? Like we can all agree if he's in a Power Four conference, he's not putting up these numbers. Though, come on, come on. He's
He's on a
played
Power
one.
Four team, then they can't stack the box against him. If he's on Colorado, he puts up better numbers than Travis Hunter, more impressive numbers than Travis Hunter.
Let's
He's
also
played
not
one legitimate opponent, and he did. To be fair, he did
He's played
well.
a lot.
but
He's
I was
played
also going to say, let's
real.
not act like Colorado has has a tough schedule.
It's better than Boise State's.
Like North Dakota
UNLV is
State,
a UNLV
UNLV is a
is
big game.
on the same level as like Kansas State, Colorado. UNLV is 9-2.
Their toughest opponent. Like you look through I'm looking at the schedule. North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, UCF. Kansas State was a tough game. They lost it, and Travis Hunter had 3 catches for 26 yards. Arizona, they're okay. And even then, that was Travis Hunter's worst game of the year with 2 for 17. Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. Not a single one of those teams is ranked. I don't think any one of those teams is ranked if I'm not mistaken. I might be missing one. None of them are ranked. None of them are even close to Oregon's level. I take UNLV over 95% of those teams. The schedule is overblown because Genty plays Mountain Five. He plays outside the Power Five conferences. He plays in the Mountain West. If like Colorado's schedule is not that much harder than Boise State's.
They played UNLV and Washington State. Washington State's number one in the Pac-12 right now.
UNLV's
Because
also
there's two teams in the Pac-12.
it's
They're
fair.
also 9-3. Like
UNLV's
this
9 and
9 and
2.
3, 9 and 2, those teams are both on the same level as like Colorado, Kansas State.
I'd argue I'd argue that those teams might be better than Kansas State. Kansas State had a good run, but they're dead in the water right now.
All right, well, if you guys feel so confident, I would go put money on it because you guys would be shocked to find out Travis
Yeah,
Hunter is minus 10,000.
it's ridiculous.
I think
Uh,
Hunter will win the award, but I don't think he should.
That's more so where I'm at. When the odds are minus 10,000 for some reason, yeah, I think he's probably just gonna get it, but I don't think he should.
all right, well, that was a fun discussion. So all right, what else did I have for you guys? Any questions for me? I don't mind a question. Makes me feel included.
How do you yeah, okay. So we got
Oh,
we got into we got into this a little
oh
bit
God.
last before the last episode.
Here we go.
I don't want to do that. I actually don't want to do this. I
I'm
don't
not
want to
gonna
do
bring
this.
up I'm not gonna bring up the CJ Stroud Caleb Williams thing because
Okay.
we don't need to do that. Are are you worried about Houston? They're 2-4 in their last six. They've lost to the Titans and the Jets. They lost a game they should have won against the Lions. That's probably the worst game the Lions played all year. Are you worried about them heading forward towards the playoffs?
No, not any more than I was like before the losses started piling up. You know what I mean? So a big thing we were talking about KC with these one score games. Like that's the exact same thing for Houston. So the same problems have been there all year. It's just they weren't they just haven't been going in their favor. Mostly because the offense in the second half has been dreadful. In every game basically in the last six like you mentioned. Um I guess like I am worried, but I'm not any more worried. So yeah, like um like the same problems are still happening. Like I've been saying, O line is just not there, and which is the main reason why the offense can't get going. Penalties, undisciplined. Like it just, I need to find a stat for how many times Houston has had a touchdown called back because of a penalty. Because on my mother, they would be leading the league in that. I swear. Outside of that, the defense has been playing really well. Houston is healthy now, but we'll see. They should kick the actual you know what out of Jacksonville. So we'll see.
Should.
We thought that last time and they won by four
Yeah,
at home.
should. They should have kicked the you know what out of a lot of teams this year. They haven't done it yet.
I will say, like, you got it. You say Detroit plays the worst game of the year. That's partly,
That's
I
their
mean,
worst game of the year.
yeah, but that's because of Houston. Like, that's
Yeah,
because of what Houston did.
Sure. But it's
I have 100% faith in Houston's defense. I have honestly no questions about Houston's defense. I think they're good enough to play with the best of the best. My question is the O-line has looked horrific. Tank Dell hasn't looked good. It doesn't look like you have a wide receiver two right now. The penalties are unbelievable. And Stroud's taken a bit of a step back. I know it's because of the O-line, because he's under pressure every time he touches the ball, but he himself has also taken a step back.
he he wasn't facing pressure last year. He needs to learn how to play under it. The best quarterbacks in this league are all amazing under pressure. That's gonna be a part of the battle.
He is statistically one of the best players against the blitz. I'm sure that has gone down in these last couple of weeks, but at one point, I mean, last year he was one of the best. At one point this year, probably around like week 7 or 8, he was one of the best still against blitz. It's just the four-man pressure, like when there's the when teams, it's not even the blitz at this point. It's just when teams are rushing four, a standard four, they just can't get it picked up. Stunts have been problems for this interior line, man. Like it just can't get figured out. That's enough Texas talk because I'm starting to rile myself up. But oh no, Glover wants to
No, I'm
keep
not
going.
Texas. No Texans. No Texans.
Okay,
But if Frost got a question, I want to put a question out there.
okay.
So I want to talk MVP race. Um, right now there's three candidates. It's Lamar, it's Saquon, it's Allen. Let's be realistic for a second. I think Saquon Barkley probably has the best case, but let's take him out of the conversation because they're never going to give it to a running back. We're all in agreement it's just not going to happen. Like,
If he break he I think the only way it happens if he breaks the rushing record.
okay, so we'll put it. Let's say he doesn't break the rushing record then, and then
Okay.
the voters just be like, nope, bye.
Yeah.
Are you? This has been mainly I'm asking this because I've been on Twitter. It is getting scary on Twitter between Bills and Ravens fans. There is heated discourse about Lamar or Allen, and it is everywhere. It's like just all I see all day. So are you taking Allen or Lamar for MVP right now?
For MVP, a
For
Lamar.
MVP.
It's gonna be Josh Allen.
Who are you taking? You think it's going to be Josh Allen, but who are you taking?
Simply because Lamar won it last year and Saquon's the running back, it's gonna be Josh Allen.
I think yeah, I do think voter fatigue is going to come in for
That's just
that.
that's another, like, you could say Lamar deserves it, whatever. It's
This
gonna be Josh Allen.
this feels
See,
similar to Embiid and Jokic.
so this is the issue because they gave it to Lamar last year when I don't think he deserved it because he didn't have an MVP caliber season. They gave it to him because he was the quarterback on the best team. Now he's having another MVP caliber season, and now they don't want to give it to him because they just gave it to him last year and everybody was complaining about it because he didn't deserve it.
It's
Now he deserves it and he's not going to get it.
it's such an issue because Bills fans have been pushing for a Josh Allen MVP for so long, and he's been due. Everyone's talking like he was he was the runner-up last year. He wasn't even like top five. Like he wasn't close to the MVP at all last year, and that's what Bills fans keep going. Well, Allen should have won it last year. Allen was not even close to winning it last year. He turned the ball over like 25 times. He's got those under control, but it's so tough because the Chiefs win is what's pushing. I think that's the leading factor for him right now. He loses to the Chiefs, he's not in the conversation. It's been so quick to forget the Ravens pummeled the Bills. Like that game was embarrassing. They sat Josh Allen for the fourth quarter. It was that bad. That's like I feel that's going unnoticed in the odds, at least right now, how it's being represented.
It's also been brushed under the rug that Houston's defense,
Oh yeah.
well, he went 9 for 30 in a game this year.
That's the
Like,
other argument. Like Lamar has had rough games. His roughest game was the Pittsburgh game. Neither have been even close to those two games that Allen had. Neither have been even close. He hasn't had a terrible game yet.
no.
I, as long as Buffalo has a strong finish to the year, and looking
Yeah,
at their schedule, I don't see why they wouldn't. They got San Francisco this week, who on primetime, Sunday night primetime, who, like we were talking about it, they don't have anybody playing San Francisco. Like
yeah.
Purdy is questionable, even though I think he's gonna play. Uh, Trent Williams looks like he's not gonna play. I think he's confirmed out.
He's
Nick
confirmed out.
Bosa confirmed out. Lenore confirmed out. Warner's been playing on like a bad ankle all year. Greenlaw's out. Like they have nobody. Then they got the Rams. They got Detroit, who we talked about. I think that's gonna be a great game. And if Allen goes off and they win, that seals it. Because then they got New England
Yeah,
twice and New York Jets. So, uh, realistically, Buffalo should win out if they beat Detroit. Like they could be what, that's
that,
6 more wins plus 9. That's 15-2. And if
that's
Allen plays well, I think that's good enough. No matter how well Lamar does down the stretch, unfortunately, I think it's
that
just going to be Josh
schedule
Allen.
is so favorable for Josh Allen MVP stocks
Yeah.
because no matter what happens in the Detroit game, if he beats the Lions and he has a really good game, he's gonna mow through the Jets, Patriots. It's locked up at that point. But if he loses to the Lions, those next three games, that's when the MVP race is gonna be really tight. He's gonna put up ridiculous numbers. And everyone's gonna forget that he just lost to the Lions and lost to the Ravens because he was so far in the past. They're just focused on the last three games.
Yeah.
That's where it's gonna be.
I will say the Baltimore and Houston losses, like those were his worst games of the year, back to back, week 4 and week 5, the only losses on the year. It was forever ago, to be fair. Like I don't know. We'll see by the time. And I mean, recently he's been much better. I mean, he took down the Chiefs. It put up big numbers against the likes of Tennessee and Indy.
That's
So
it. That's
Tennessee's got a good defense too.
yes, they do. The thing with Allen as a whole, like it just honestly, this has not been his best season. Like it's been his most efficient season because he's not turning the ball over. He's taking care of the ball, so that's
And that's what
really
they
good.
want him to do. Like that's been
But
the whole.
yeah, but his numbers aren't the gaudy Josh Allen numbers we're expected. He has only one game over 300 yards passing this year. So it's
Yeah.
not been it's been a weird year for Allen because he's much more efficient, but less. I think he's had less touchdowns because he's given them all to James Cook, and he's not throwing for as many yards because he's just not trying to. It's such a weird. It's not what you expect out of a Josh Allen season.
Yeah, we'll see. Like he's on pace to finish with a career low interceptions. We'll see how much touchdowns he gets up to. I mean, it's not out of the question he matches last year's touchdown total while having like a lot less picks. He's 11 off right now in 6 games. I believe they have left six.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's very doable.
He had a lot of rushing touchdowns last year, though, I think. Like
he
Uh,
had
way
like
more than he
15
that
or
is
has
something.
this
fair.
year.
That is fair. He has 5 this year. He had 15 last year, which blew
Yeah.
out any and he
Other
had
than
20.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So, and that was his career high by far. But I think, yeah, I think we all touched on
Yeah,
every point.
it's because he's on pace for career low interceptions. He's also on pace for less than 4,000 passing yards.
I don't think he's gonna get 4K.
He's on pace for 3,900 right now.
Oh, yeah. So you did the math. Oh, great.
I
Because
I've been
I
doing
was
the
standing
math.
there looking at it. I was like, I don't know. Oh, yeah.
I,
You
I've
got a
been
little
doing the
bread on
math
that,
because
don't you?
that's the one leg in my futures parlay that
You got a little extra on this
I
whole
that
thing.
parlay is looking so good, except for Josh Allen, and it's scaring me.
All right. Well, anything else you guys want to talk about this coming week for the future? Like, let's do a little, we got a couple minutes here. Let's do a little playoff picture uh preview, I guess, of what we're rocking with right now. After I guess the Thanksgiving special games. Same thing in the AFC, I think. I mean, do you guys see the AFC playoff picture changing? Looks like there's a gap here now. A couple of games between the seventh seeded Denver Broncos at 7-5 and the Colts at 5-7. Miami's also at 5-7. But do you guys think the 7 teams that are in the AFC playoff picture right now stay?
I think there's a chance the Broncos fall just because they end the season at the Chargers, at Cincinnati, which is going to be massive, and then they play the Chiefs in the last week of the year. The Broncos could go 0-3 there, and especially if they lose that game to the Bengals, that could shake up a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the only team I can see falling. The Bills are
Yeah,
locked in, the Steelers are locked in, the Ravens are locked in, the Texans are locked in, the Chiefs are clinched. I'd say the Chargers are pretty locked in. I don't think they slip. The Broncos could slip. The problem is I just don't see a team catching them. They've got 2 games on everyone in the AFC. Like I just don't see a world where Miami makes up those 2 games or Cincy makes up those 3 games.
Yeah, you only got
that
3 teams in the hunt, I think, right? You got Indy, Miami, and Cincy.
Yeah. And neither of those teams, like they all have very glaring flaws and issues that I think Denver doesn't really have as much.
And then if you look at the NFC playoff picture, like Frosty, it's so funny to see the Seahawks and the Falcons with 3 and 4 seeds at 6-5. Then you got the 5 seed Vikings at 9-2, the 6 seeded Packers at 9-3, and the 7 seeded Washington Commanders at 7-5. This is definitely this could go a multitude of ways. Like you said, you can't even rule out the Cowboys, and they're all the way down at 12 right now. Um, Same thing. Do you guys think that as of today, the teams that are in the playoff picture, which is Detroit, Philly, Seattle, Atlanta, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Washington, do you think those 7 end up being the playoff teams we see in the National Football Conference? No?
To me, there's no way one of those teams doesn't change with how close it is. I don't have like a statement on who's gonna fall and who's gonna rise,
Okay.
but there's no way
You're just playing the odds. You're playing
just
the something's got to change, all right?
something will change. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I would assume so. And I think the Rams win the West.
That's where I might go to.
And I was low on the Rams to start the year, but their advantage is they still have a game against San Fran, and then they end the year back to back against Arizona and Seattle, both at home. There's a
That
good chance they win both of those, and that could decide who wins that division.
I think that's
I
the
also Wouldn't be shocked if Washington falls out of the playoffs.
I was going to bring that up too. I think the commies could fall out, but I also think Atlanta and Tampa are just going to go back and forth for the next 3 weeks. And the NFC West is just like you cannot predict that division right now. If I had to shoot a guess, I would go Rams, Seahawks, Niners, Cardinals. But that all hinges on health of the Niners and the Seahawks staying hot, which they looked a lot better these past couple weeks. But they
Yeah,
could go back to the week 4 to 7 Seahawks we saw.
I want to say the Niners. They
Yeah.
can't stay on the field,
Yeah.
man. Like it's crazy.
If this Niners team was just kind of struggling but was healthy, I would take them to win the division. But they just are
Yes.
beat up right now.
And they're somehow like hanging around 500. I think you guys laid it out there. It's all four teams in the NFC West could be in the playoffs. So there's
Yep.
four potential teams. And then you could make an argument for Tampa Bay over Atlanta, even though let me check in the head to head.
Atlanta won both.
Oh,
I think it's going to be the Falcons. Then I think you could not confidently, but and I just think Atlanta's better right now and are less hurt. Um, so I think I would secure them. And then, I mean, if you guys think the commies are going to fall out, it's going to be one of those NFC West teams, I think. So unless your Cowboys, Frosty, go on a miracle run here. Do they got Washington? Did you say they had Washington
Yeah,
coming up?
they end the year against Washington in Dallas, which I
Okay.
don't know if that's a good thing at this point, but
Yeah. And then Dallas just beat them. Or Dallas beat
yep.
them, right? Yeah. So
I will say the Bucks though, the rest of their schedule, if they play the Panthers twice, they play the Raiders, the Saints, the Cowboys, and the Chargers.
okay.
that's very
That's an
winnable.
easy schedule. Realistically,
I'm
they could go 5-1 there.
I'm not ready to count out
Yeah,
the
five.
Bucks. I wasn't, and I was not ready to count them out. Then you mentioned that schedule. Now I'm definitely not ready. I
Hey,
think they
well,
could. I think
Falcons got a pretty easy one. Not as easy,
Yeah.
but
I think they could. I think with the Bucks, I'm more so saying they could sneak into that 7th seed. They'll be in the hunt with the rest of the NFC West teams for that 7th seed with the commies.
all right. Well, yeah, the NFC is definitely a lot more up in the air. AFC seems pretty secure, but hey, you never know. You never know. It's the witching hour of we're getting up to the witching hour of I guess the season. But
Yeah.
that'll do it. I like today's episode. We were touched on a lot of things. Basically just did a whole like year recap basically, but we got to be like 2/3 of the way through something like that.
A little checkpoint.
Hey, there we go. There we go. A little Thanksgiving recap. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe if you want to see more of our content. Backfield Buzz Podcast, part of the High Podcast Network. Cody Wiles, Andrew Foster, Logan Glover. Thanks for watching. And as always, keep it buzzing.